Hello and welcome back, and that's right, it is Prime Day once again. Just like we do every year here on the channel, I make a video like this, non-monetized, no ads at the beginning or the end, and it's me showing you the deals that I would personally buy. These are hardware that we've talked about on the channel, things that we are going to review soon, in some cases, or things we've already reviewed, and ultimately, I will not make a recommendation in this video unless it is something I would personally buy, and in some cases, as I'll highlight later on, I've either already purchased it, or it's a thing that I'm going to purchase for a review here on the channel anyway. But why do we do this? We do this for a couple of reasons. One, because we like people understanding what is good and when they're not getting screwed over. But secondly, it is of course a fundraising drive here for the channel. There are links to all of the products I'll talk about today, all for all the different regions that we're covering: the US, the UK, Germany, Australia and Canada, and all of those regions have got links in the description to the products that we're going to talk about. And if you're interested in this, please go into that description and use those links. Only if you found the video helpful, and of course that you think it is a deal as well. Don't buy something you don't need. Also, we've got a full article linked in the description as well over on NAS Compares, where we highlight the best things to look out for, and we've all got a running active total of all of the deals that we have found and other members of the NAS community, and you can vote on them there. And ultimately, these are all of the things that we've seen, along with the price drop for them and more. And we will be adding all of the deals that I'm talking about today into that tally as well. All of that is linked below. But let's get started. So straight away, Amazon US, we always start with the US because generally they always have the most deals. I would argue this year, all of the regions, Prime Day offers and promotions, at least at this early stage, because it is a two-day event, aren't fantastic. The US has probably got some of the best deals, but it certainly doesn't have the most. So if we go straight in, probably the couple of the big guns, there's a couple of Synology ones, and straight away the DS723. That is that dual-core Ryzen powered and 10 GB upgradable, so it doesn't arrive off the bat, 2-bay, and that is an insane price for that. To put that into perspective, when we did our most affordable 2-bay video recently, affordable NASs for 250 quid that went live I think yesterday, we were talking about how the best you can get there for 250 Nika was going for some of the ARM based stuff, and this is a very competent CPU with ECC memory and 10 gig upgradability in a 2-bay for 359 Nika, which is a very good offer for a 2-bay. Now that's really the only NAS I saw on offer from Synology. Again, that might change over the course of the two-day event. But the only other thing I found from Synology was their router there, the WRX 560, a Wi-Fi 6 router that they've got there. And again, it's got that software included. And it's pretty darn good. It's not their most fully featured router, but as we can see from the 66AX, that is not on offer at the moment. But again, we reviewed the WRX 560. It isn't quite as highfalutin as the 6600, but now they've dropped that price to 175 here. That's a good little offer for that router. And again, whether you've used it or not, do check out that SRM software before you do anything to see the latest revision, because all of that whole smart and safe search stuff within the router and the protection is very good, and pretty much the reason a lot of people go for that kind of parental control plus with that profiling and stuff. Now moving on from that, we can look at something like the Real-Link doorbell, something else we talked about very recently. And again, I've already championed this. It's NAS supported. You can use it with your Synology, you can use it with your QNAP, you can use it with Smart Home. And again, it is one of the few doorbells that I've been able to find that works with NAS systems, not only their own. It isn't the cheapest, but still out there. It is now on offer to make it just a pinch more affordable there. Now, in terms of hard drives, I've noticed different regions of the world are getting different offers from certain brands. Now, I don't know if that is because of quantities, but the US has got probably some of the better WD Red hard drive pricing. So we've got, for example, an 8 TB at $122, a 16 TB at $219, and a 20 TB at $319. To put that into perspective, when the 20 TB was launched last year, it was about $500 to $550 there, and that is a hell of a drop. Don't get me wrong, that minus 36% thing is sort of erroneous, because that's obviously retail recommended price at launch, but I would still say that is a good 15, maybe 16, 17, 18% price drop, and pretty darn good for that. And again, numerous drives in their lineup have seen price drops, not all of them as you can see, but still nonetheless, you look at the 22 TB at $409 and the 20 TB the 22 TB at $409 and $319 for the 20 TB. That's pretty darn good. Now, Terramaster. You're going to see a lot of Terramaster during this sale. Of all of the brands that have engaged with Prime Day, unsurprisingly, as they are already quite heavily affiliated with Amazon, every single region of the world that I looked at, there were Terramaster promotions. Now, again, some of them were on Thunderbolt solutions like this, where there's a couple of Thunderbolt inbuilt RAID solutions there. And again, the 2-bay and the 5-bay, both of which were reviewed on the channel, both of which are pretty darn good once you really break down into just basic storage that shuts up and does its thing. It's not the most attractive case, I'll be straight with you, but to get a 5-bay Thunderbolt 3 RAID solution, unpopulated, and again, peace out to Drobo, for $559 is pretty darn good. The 2-bay isn't quite as attractive an offer. I think that 20% may be scaled out down to about 10 or 12% off realistically. But still, if you're in the market for hardware RAID, sorry, I should say enclosure RAID handled Thunderbolt 3 solutions, these two are pretty darn good for the price point. Next up, 2.5 gig. That's another thing you can hear a lot in this video. And with 2.5 GBE, there's a couple of them. One in this region. I believe the other one might be France or Australia later on. Their USB to 2.5G adapter. This is the cheapest I could find at $14.99. And that is a PC supported. It's also supported on a couple of NAS platforms, what I could see because of the chipset. And that allows you to upgrade to 2.5G on quite a lot of the NAS brands. Obviously not Synology officially. But that does allow you to scale up your network connectivity from 1 gig to 2.5 times that. Straight away over USB 3. It's very straightforward, and Mac and Windows supported too. And finally, Gen 5. This isn't the first time you're going to see a Gen 5 drive here. I was really surprised to see any PCIe Gen 5 NVMe's appear on Prime Day, because there's only about 4 or 5 different drives in the market right now. But the Crucial T700, either Crucial are trying to work on a newer, even faster drive, you know, in the guise of like what Gigabyte are doing, but they've reduced the cost of that Gen 5 drive in multiple regions, with and without the heatsink too. And I will argue that although it has appeared on offer in a lot of locations, this is one of the two where I think it is genuinely a compelling offer. Now, if you were looking at existing price per terabyte of, say, Gen 4 SSDs, $167 for a 1 TB SSD isn't great, but the minute you're looking at a Gen 5 SSD with inclusive heatsink, although it's not the best price for an SSD out there, it is definitely the best price for a Gen 5 drive. So, and we have a video on this coming up soon in the next day or so, talking about whether you should jump onto Gen 5 at all at the moment. But I will say, if you are looking at jumping onto Gen 5, this is hands down the best price I've seen for a Gen 5 SSD right now, with inclusive heatsink. And even if you compare that against UK pricing or anywhere else in the world, it is a very impressive price drop down with and without the heatsink by comparison. We've looked at other regions too, particularly when you look at, say, some of the more niche retailers out there. They're a little bit more mixed. When you look at Newegg as well, that is a very good price for a Gen 5 drive overall. But now let's move on to the next country. And now over to the UK, my old blighty, where I am stood. Now, from here, there was a lot of NAS upgrades on offer. We didn't see the same kind of larger hardware scope that the US have got there. But if we look here, straight away, when it comes to hard drives, Seagate drives were kind of the pick of the bunch here. Maybe later in the day, we'll see a lot more WD stuff then. But the Seagate Iron Wolf 8TB at 147 nicker, and the 4TB at just 77 nicker. Again, largely ignore these larger numbers generally when it comes to hard drives, and they talk about price drop, maybe half that number every single time. So I'd say again, 10-11% off is pretty reasonable. And for those two hard drives, if you're looking at populating a new NAS, that's not too shabby. Not as good as the WD offer, if I'm honest, but for the UK, that's still not too bad. Further on in NAS upgrades, the best memory upgrade deal I found was this deal here, a couple of 16 gig DDR4 modules. Again, the bulk of current generation from all of the NAS brands out there. Your Synology, your QNAP, your Acer, your Terramaster are all rocking DDR4 SODIMM, and this is 32 gig of an upgrade there. And again, that is the faster 3200 megahertz, but it is backwards compatible at just 47 nicker there, which isn't too bad overall. Moving forward, for those that have purchased a lot more affordable, cheaper 10G systems that utilize SFP, I actually found a reasonable 10 gig SFP upgrade here for just 20 nicker to have a 10G SFP upgrade. You'll still need to get the cabling, but again, if you're looking at a 10G system and you're looking at some of the more affordable ones, the ones that are running on ARM processors perhaps, that run with SFP 10G, this is a great way to get access to that 10G, or look at some of the SFP to copper upgrades if you want to do a crossover between them. When it comes to remote USB backups, the best that I found here was one from WD, the 5TB drive. And again, these aren't really shuckable, and we will be talking more about shuckable drives later on. But it's still good as a local USB backup there. And it says Mac, but it is formattable. The same goes standard Lacy external there. Yes, it's a little bit more expensive, just a couple of quid more. But with this one, you're getting that Lacy rugged enclosure. And this one actually is shuckable. So again, if you're looking at a USB backup, a local, quick upgrade to your NAS to have an extra tier to your backup for just over 100 quid, that's not too shabby for 5TB, right? Now, going back to that question of shuckable drives, if we're looking at this for 150, this is an 8TB external enclosure. It does need mains power, but it's one of the hubs. So it allows you to kind of expand upon that connected port there and still get 8TB of storage included, which, again, not the cheapest. If you're looking at 8TB drive anyway, you're going to be getting close to that price, but still the option to have that drive and the external hub, and again we will be talking more about shuckable drives again later on, that's not too shabby indeed. When we're looking at PS5 upgrades, we've got a couple of very specific drives here. One that you're very, very familiar with, the Samsung drive, but this is their new 990 Pro. They're a higher performing Gen 4 drive there, so 120 for a 2TB drive. Again, it's not 33%. I'd say it's close to 15, maybe 20%, but it's still a very, very good price for a Gen 4 drive for PS5 upgrades. And for 2TB, that's pretty darn good. And it also kind of throws shade on this one here. This is another drive here for 109, and that's another 2TB drive. So again, very affordable, but the performance numbers aren't quite as high as that of the Samsung. But still, 100 nicker for 2TB on a PS5 upgrade is pretty darn good, When we move over to surveillance, we've got the return of that Reolink doorbell, and there is both the Wi-Fi and the PoE version out there, both of which are on offer. Both of which are quite a good price. I would argue it's a better price here in the UK than it is for some of the US pricing that we saw earlier on. And the same goes for a couple of cameras that we have reviewed on the channel before, both of which are completely NAS compatible across all of the NAS brands. Very quick, easy setup and integration. And again, at $59 and $42 to integrate these PoE cameras into your home network environment, that's a very affordable way to get some robust IP66 protected, I think one of them's IP67, cameras into your network environment, both of which have got a very good lens included in both of them. Again, we've reviewed both of them. There may even be one of them behind me here, here in the Zoom room. And of course, a camera that we talked about before, that dual lens 180-degree view camera that kind of removes the need for a pan tilt zoom or two cameras covering two zones. And we have reviewed this. We've done comparisons against the Anker. It is a bloody good camera, and it is compatible with the NAS brands as well. So I do recommend you check out those reviews. And finally, of course, Terramaster. They're basically on offer in every region, and the best Terramaster offer that was available at the moment in the UK was their 10 gigabit Ethernet NAS there at 415. So that is a quad-core Intel Celeron powered NAS with 8 gig of DDR memory. So I think it's DDR3 memory inside this. And then with, oh no, it is DDR4 memory. With that, and it's got 10G on the back. And it's got a couple of ones as well, why not? And that's 415 nicker for a 5-bay 10 gig NAS that's got an Intel integrated graphics processor. That's insane, you know. And you know, the other one's all right, it's their newer generation, that 4-bay, and it's 360, so that's using the new N5105 processor. It's got 2.5 GBE on the rear. It's got 4 gig of memory that can be scaled up, they say, to 32 gig if you use their modules. I've never been too sure about that. But still, 360 for their current gen Intel quad-core 4-bay, but 415 for a 10 gig 5-bay. That's phenomenal. And ultimately, although, again, it's not the last time you're going to see Terramaster appearing, because they've largely just gone hell for leather during Prime Day, I will say these two are by far the best deals you can find out there. But unfortunately, unlike a normal offer you would buy internationally, if this isn't on offer in your region, which it might crop up later in the 2-day event, you can't just buy it from another region. Your Prime subscription is limited to that country, so you can't use a Prime from another region to get it. So do factor that in. Maybe sign up for a Prime trial in another country if you want to get that offer and sneak it over to you. But for now, let's move on to our next country. And now over to Germany. And over in Germany, again, this is... from this point onwards in the video, the number of available offers do start to diminish ever so slightly in terms of the range and the numbers that are currently available. Now, if we go straight away, we've got that's PS5 SSD deal there, that 990 Pro from Samsung, and again, that's the 2 TB for 138 euros. Still pretty darn good, and again, ignore the 42, probably like 2025, but still a great offer nonetheless. We've got a QNAP there. Now, this isn't strictly a Prime Day offer, but it went on offer at about the same time. And now the 264, again, someone commented about this on the Best NAS for 500 Nika video. This has now dropped under that 500 euro mark there, and this is the 8 gig 2-bay there with a quad core Celeron, 2.5 GBE, couple of ports there, PCI upgrade slots, and M2 NVMe on a 2-bay. It's not the cheapest 2-bay by any stretch or margin. You remember that Synology I mentioned earlier from the US Prime Day? But still, nonetheless, it's a very impressive price point nonetheless. Moving forward, we've got another Terramaster, obviously, and their Terramasters, they've got the budget Terramaster there, that F4210 4-bay. Again, it's a quad-core ARM. Again, it's as good as you're going to get in Germany there. I do think that UK offer we talked about kind of smashes this to pieces, so it might be within your interest to sign up for that kind of 30-day trial internationally, ship it over if this is something you want, but it's still not too bad. On top of that, we've got their 2-bay Thunderbolt 3 kind of dock station there that's got the additional ports, and again, I would say 10% off, but still nonetheless a very good docking station. We utilise it for one of our backups in the studio to localise with one of our Thunderbolt machines, and this is one that we're already using, so I can vouch for it there. And again, it's got the dial there for the RAID, it's got the additional port, it's got even a network dock. So if you're looking at it more as a 2-bay hard drive storage device with docking and multi-port capabilities, it's not too shabby indeed. In terms of 10G upgrades, I'm going to talk about a couple of network upgrades here. One, this is the best 10 gig copper card upgrade I could find. And this is a dual port 10G card. And again, knocking around for 110 euros. It is NAS compatible. I'm not sure about Synology. I know it's compatible with QNAP. We checked the compatibility list and the model ID. And it did look really, really impressive to me for the price point of what you're getting there. And with 10G becoming even more affordable, you know, it's really surprising that dual port cards have not seen the same treatment. Single port cards have seen a price drop, but dual port, particularly now we're seeing SMB multi-channel be so widely supported, it's kind of strange to me that the dual port cards have not seen the same reduction like this is showing us. And a lot of that, I believe, is to do with the enhanced controllers and the additional heat dissipation and active fans that have to be applied. So there's a lot more components involved. But still, nonetheless, this is the best 10G dual port card I could find on offer. Moreover, from that, we've then got a USB to 2.5 gig adapter. And this is probably the best offer I found in most of Europe. Because although it doesn't have the same cheaper pricing of the US, it's still out there. And this is just 20 euros to upgrade to 10G. Again, not the best price, but it's the best price I could find in Europe during Prime Day for this. Now, moving forward in terms of storage, for them, they've got a couple of things in Germany here. First and foremost, you've got their 4 TB for 79 euros. That's really it. there wasn't a lot, at least on the launch of Prime Day. There may be stuff later, but at least in terms of hard drives, this is as good as you can get. If you're going for an early upgrade, you want to add some existing drives, 4 TBs that you may already have running. And moving forward from that, we can talk a little bit about shucking, because here we have the expansion here for the 16 TB Seagate expansion drive. And a lot of the time when it comes to shucking, there's always the question marks about what drive is inside and does it actually have an external an interface on it, an internal interface that you can utilize. And if you followed the channel earlier this year, you'll know that we spend quite a lot of time talking about shucking drives and creating our master list that we have been updating. And this drive here is not only on our master list, but it's also been discussed online on Data Hoarder that it can be shucked. So there is a decent little 16 TB drive there up for grabs if you want it. And the same goes if you're looking at WD with their Element series. WD Element here, and this is quite a big old drive at 18 TB for €274. And again, we've looked online and it is shuckable, and it does have an adapter there on the tip of it, but that adapter can be removed. It's a screw-on adapter, and it does allow you to access the original SATA interface there. And again, that goes the 12, the 14, the 16, and the 18 TB drives in that series. So Germany, it's a lot more, I would say, in terms of drives. The shucking capabilities and the potential for shucking is better. And overall, the offers in Germany, although not great, there are a few there. And on to Australia, one of the two regions that I talk about during the course of these Prime Day videos and Black Friday and stuff that always gets the worst deals, in my opinion. But they're a little better this year, but still nonetheless, Australia and Canada later on are a little thinner on the deals here. It's not really fair. I know that you guys are looking at this going, why does this cost more here than it is over there? But there has actually been a few promotions there. So Transcend have got a 4 TB drive here for 264 Australian dollars, which on the face of it doesn't sound like a great deal. But once you feed it into a calculator there in £2, that's 136 nicker, and there are still 160 here in the UK. So you could bulk up and fully populate a NAS pretty darn well with SSDs there if you wanted to go down that route of much faster storage, particularly on a 10G platform. Next up, you've got the WD Black SN850X. They're higher performing PCIe Gen 4 drive. Again, not strictly for PS5, but you can definitely use it in there. $405, and again, feed that into the calculator, £209, and again, it's $230 at the moment in the UK, so it's a pretty darn good offer. Better, I would argue, than our UK Prime Day offer. And lastly, there is the Crucial Gen 5 drive. It is back there, and this Crucial Gen 5 drive, as you can see, at 918 Australian dollars seems insane, but the minute we feed it into the calculator, we can see that it costs exactly the same as the UK offer overall, but you get the heatsink included there in Australia. So again, not a fantabulous deal, but still a better price than a lot of other regions around the world there. But let's move on to another country. And over to France. Vive la France. And I would say right now, their offers are the second weakest of the bunch, unfortunately. Now, we're looking at this one here, and we can see the SanDisk 256 gig SSD. Again, not a fantastic price drop, but a realistic price drop nonetheless for a quality card. What do I mean by that? There are a lot of Mickey Mouse SD cards in the market right now. And when you're looking at getting an SD card to go inside a surveillance camera to act as that kind of dual recording and edge recording, you want to make sure you get a very good SD card because of the rewrites that can happen with recurrent carryover when you're doing like 10 days or 30 days of retention. There's actually a lot of rewrite on SD cards. So when it comes to SD cards in surveillance, you're not only looking at write speeds and the class factor of them, but you've got to look at the durability. And a lot of these kind of no-name replicant SD cards in the market, they're a lot cheaper. You will find that although the performance numbers are only a small amount lower than that of the SanDisks and the quality cards out there in the market, at the same time, those SD cards have pretty poor durability. So that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to highlight this offer. One, because it's probably one of the best I found out there for a quality SD card for surveillance, but also because although there are better prices out there, a lot of these other cards, which I do not recommend, have very poor write on them, and particularly the durability as well. Now, moving forward, we've got the portable router. We talked about this on the channel. We reviewed the GLI Net And there's several different versions of this. Why do I recommend these when you could just connect to your Wi-Fi or get a VPN? Well, because this has its own little built-in VPN, and you can just choose to switch on that VPN. So carry it with you in your bag. It's USB powered. And with that, you can just connect it into whatever device you're using. It's very low powered, and it allows you to connect with it, and it connects with the public Wi-Fi. It connects with any Wi-Fi in your local area network, but it has a hardware VPN switch built onto it that you can set up within the software. It is a very impressive device, and the whole range of them, we're actually reviewing one of the newer generation one of these very, very soon that has an internal battery and has 5G SIM support as well. So a lot of the previous gen are seeing drops in price like this one here, so I do recommend checking those out. Next, of course, it's Terramaster. Again, they're all over this bloody sale, but fair play to them. They have at least reduced the cost of everything, and in this case it is their expansion devices. So if you're using a Terramaster NAS and you want to expand that device, they're 2 and 5 bay expansion currently available now, and again these have got hardware RAID as well, so you don't have to use them as an expansion. You can just use them as a standalone DAS. You've now got access to this, and the prices are pretty darn low. And again, we've reviewed a lot of these. And again, the design, I'm not a tremendous fan of the design. I think it's a little dated looking, but I will say it does the job. Next up, we've got another 2.5G adapter. This is even lower than the one we talked about before, but it's also a brand and a controller chip I've never heard of. So I've included it, but bear in mind, if I had to pick between this and the one in Germany, I'd pick the German one. But it's still a very low price for a 2.5 gig adapter over USB. I'm just not really familiar with the controller that is built on there. It's still a nice price. I just wanted to touch on that. And finally, we can talk about UPSs in France, because France has seen a lot more offers become available on universal power supplies, uninterruptible power supplies even, before someone corrects me in the comments. And the best two that I found on there, I will highlight, these are not brands I've heard of. Okay, so that's definitely something to go with a pinch of salt. I went through the reviews though in advance to double check, and it seems like they're legit, and hence why I'm adding this kind of disclaimer at the beginning. But I will say, for the price point and the volts or watts, depending on what you want to do your calculation with, it's probably the best on these two. Just be aware you're not getting a known brand. These aren't your APCs, okay? So do kind of double check into that. And again, at this price point, you can kind of get to the point where you might weigh up the long-term life of it. Again, do think sustainable, but still nonetheless, they're the best UPS offers I could find. Let's move on to our last region. And finally, on to Canada. I think it's fair to say that Canada gets something of a kick-in during Prime Day. They don't get a lot of half-decent offers. Them and Australia just always get a little bit of short shrift. But this year, they've got a couple of half-decent deals worth looking at. And I would say straight away is the deals on the 16, 18 and 20 TB drives are worth discussing there. Again, at 294, 319 and 424 Canadian dollars. Again, you can do the conversions in your own regions. That's actually not too shabby. And we've talked about some of the WD versus Seagate offers throughout this video, and this is probably one of the better ones out there. Not the best, unfortunately, but still pretty darn good. So if you're in Canada looking to upgrade your NAS drive with some decent storage, these are some pretty good offers to go for. And all of these are the Pro Series drives, so your 5-year warranty and your enhanced performance there, and the durability, of course. Next, when we're looking at all of the storage drives there, I know it's a lot of externals, but the problem is I don't know too much about the currency conversions, and when I tried to do a lot of the carryover between Canadian dollar and US dollar in UK, a lot of it, when you got into the capacities, became harder to calculate. So if you are looking at external storage over USB, there's a few offers there, but I can't personally vouch for their level of quality, so do check those out. Recommended. Next, needless to say, the offers for the Terramaster stuff isn't quite as impressive as it is in the other regions, but still nonetheless, we've got that F4423 new region device there, which is pretty darn good. Again, when you do the currency conversions down, that actually works out pretty reasonable. And a moderate offer here at the F5221, which is their older generation 5-bay device there. It's not the 10G one, but still nonetheless not too shabby. And again, work out the currency conversion is actually not too bad. Last thing, a D-Link switch here, and this is a mixture of 2.5G and 1G. And when we're looking at 2.5 gig Ethernet switches, they have come down in price, but not loads. And I would say when you're looking at, say, a 5-port or an 8-port 2.5G switch, they still seem to live at about the 80 to 120 nicker mark, which is insane to me. But this D-Link one that's got 5 1-gig ports and 2 2.5 gig ports, you've got 2 ports there for SMB multi-channel, and the majority of these NASs that have got 2 2.5G ports, that for 69 Canadian dollars is pretty darn good. And finding this switch in other regions is actually a little harder. It is available in some but not all, and I quite like the design of this, and I personally would buy this, and I probably will buy this for the channel for review if I can get hold of it in this region. But this has been Amazon Prime Day, day 1. I don't know if I'm going to make a second video. I'm going to see if there's enough promotions to add on a second day that are worth your time. But otherwise, all you need to do is head back over to our daily deals page where we're going to add all of these promotions to this list that I found this morning. And if some new and exciting promotions arrive overnight, I'll make another video on that. But if I don't, that's because there weren't any, and I'm not going to waste your time or mine. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching. Again, links in the description to all of the promos we've discussed and the deals pages here at NAS Compares. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a lovely week. And remember, don't buy stuff you don't need. Only buy any of the stuff I've discussed today if you actually need it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.